Global challenges. The impact of World War II on the American military. Some 16 million people served in the American military during World War II. How did the U.S. government repay veterans at the end of the war, and how would these programs affect future veterans? In the early 1930s, the Nazi Party rose to power in Germany. Later in the decade, the Italians sent troops to Africa, the Japanese invaded China, and the Germans occupied Czechoslovakia and then attacked Poland. Many countries in the world were at war, but the United States was not. Many Americans did not want to send U.S. troops to fight in what they felt was someone else's war. Then came December 7, 1941. On that clear Sunday morning, the Japanese military launched a surprise attack on Pearl Harbor, an American naval base in Hawaii. About 2,300 Americans were killed.
December 7, 1941, a date which will live in infamy.
The very next day, Congress declared war on Japan. 3 days later, Germany and Italy declared war on the United States. In a 5-day stretch, America had gone from fighting no one to waging war on 2 separate fronts, in Europe and in the Pacific. The American war effort would last 4 years. During that time, more than 16 million Americans would serve in the armed forces. Millions more aided the war effort on the home front. Those numbers included women, Asian Americans, African Americans, Hispanics, and American Indians. Finally, the Allied forces, led by Great Britain, the United States, and Russia, won the war. The millions of Americans who had served made their way back home and started to look for jobs. Unfortunately, there were more soldiers than there were jobs, and the country was faced with the prospect of hundreds of thousands of out-of-work veterans. So Congress came up with a plan. It set aside billions of dollars of financial aid for the veterans of World War II. The money included loans for those who wanted to buy a home or start their own business. The money would also help pay for the tuition of any soldier who wanted to go to college or vocational school. It was called the GI Bill, and it was a big success. Not only did the country avoid a major unemployment crisis, but for many young men and women who didn't come from wealthy families, it was their first opportunity to get a shot at a top-notch education. Suddenly, more Americans than ever before were getting a higher education. The GI Bill was such a success that it became permanent government policy. The young men and women of the U.S. military serve their country. In exchange, they can earn money for college and often learn a skill that they can bring back with them into civilian life. The U.S. military continues to offer opportunities to those who serve. It's a legacy that began more than half a century ago in the victorious wake of World War II, a war in which America needed more soldiers than ever before, and millions answered the call.